All right, so get this. Today's deep dive. It takes us on a treasure hunt of sorts.
Ooh.
We're talking 15th century exploration pre-Columbus. And you want to know if someone might have actually beaten him to the New World.
Okay.
We've got some serious digging to do.
Yeah, it's amazing what we miss when we only focus on the big names, right? You've given us this text, La conquista el hombre que pudo llegar antes que Colón.txt. And it points to a man named Ferdinand van Olmen. He might just hold the key to rewriting some history here.
Ferdinand van Olmen. Not exactly a household name,
Right.
but this text, it paints him as a potential pre-Columbus explorer.
Yeah.
So before we get to our mystery man, let's set the stage.
Okay.
It's the 15th century. The age of exploration is in full swing. And Portugal is laser-focused on finding that sea route to India.
Exactly. And that ambition led them to establish these crucial outposts, the Azores, Madeira. Think of them as stepping stones into the vast Atlantic, attracting ambitious folks from all over Europe. Not just the Portuguese,
Right.
all looking for opportunity.
Got it. So these islands were buzzing with more than just Portuguese explorers. And this is where Van Olmen enters the picture.
Yes. Van Olmen was a planter in the Azores. Now, picture this. 1486. He approaches King John II of Portugal with a proposition, a daring expedition westward with his associate, João Afonso Strait.
Hold on. Van Olmen was a planter, right?
Right.
He worked the land. What made him qualified to lead an ocean voyage?
That's where it gets interesting. While he was a planter, the text suggests Van Olmen knew his way around a ship. He specifically asked for experienced sailors, hinting at prior nautical knowledge. And this wasn't unheard of at the time. Remember Columbus?
Right.
Also a planter, but with significant seafaring experience.
Right, Columbus. The planter turned explorer. It's like a whole theme back then.
Yeah.
But why risk it all on a journey into the unknown? What was the big draw for Van Olmen?
Well, remember that legend of the Seven Cities?
Oh, yeah.
It was this mythical island chain, said to be overflowing with riches, founded by refugees who fled the Muslim conquest of Spain.
Okay, the seven cities. That's ringing a bell.
Right.
So we've got the allure of legendary treasure. What else?
This was also a time when scholars were developing more accurate maps and calculations. They believed a westward voyage to Asia was not only possible, but maybe even shorter than going around Africa.
Wow.
So alongside the legend, you have this growing belief that a westward route to the east was achievable.
So they knew the earth was round. They just underestimated the size.
That's it. Ambition fueled by legends and a dash of scientific theory. But did the king just give Van Olmen the go-ahead based on enthusiasm alone?
Not quite. This is where Portugal's Captain Donatieri system comes into play. It was a way for the crown to encourage exploration without shouldering all the risk.
Interesting.
Van Olmen secured a deal with King John II. Discover new lands. They're yours to rule as Captain Donatieri, governor, the whole shebang.
Wow.
It's a big but. He had to finance the expedition himself.
You're telling me they put a time limit on his discovery rights?
Right. That's fascinating. It suggests they had some idea of what he might find and how long it would take. High risk, high reward, just like today's venture capitalists.
Exactly. The agreement stated that after just 40 days sailing west, command would transfer to Strait, Van Olmen's associate. That time frame is strikingly close to Columbus's journey to the Antilles.
That's way too specific to be a coincidence. They weren't just sailing blind.
And there's more. The expedition was provisioned for 6 months at sea.
Wow.
This was a serious undertaking, not just a casual sail around the block. Someone believed in Van Olmen's vision enough to invest serious resources.
We've got a motive, a plan, royal backing, even a rough estimate of the distance. Everything's falling into place for Van Olmen's big adventure. So what happened next?
Well, that's where the real mystery begins.
All right, so we've got our intrepid explorer, a ship full of supplies, and a date with destiny. What's next? Did Van Olmen find the legendary Seven Cities? Spill the tea.
Here's the thing. The historical record on what happened next is murky, to say the least. We have intriguing hints, but no concrete proof that Van Olmen's expedition ever actually set sail.
Wait, so after all that, they just vanish into thin air? You're kidding. That's frustrating.
History loves to keep us guessing, right? But that doesn't mean we can't explore the possibilities. Some historians believe they were lost at sea. Storms, navigational errors, even something like the Sargasso Sea could have spelled disaster. Disappearances weren't uncommon back then.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The Atlantic was a very different place in the 15th century.
Right, and others theorize they delayed the departure for some reason. Maybe logistical issues, bad weather, who knows? Pushing the voyage outside the optimal sailing season would have been incredibly risky.
Part of me wonders if they ever even left. What evidence do we have about that?
Well, there is some evidence that Van Olmen was still in the Azores in June of 1487, a good 9 months after their intended departure. This could mean the expedition was abandoned altogether. Maybe financial hurdles, second thoughts, new information that made the voyage seem too dangerous. We just don't know.
Wow, so we've gone from ambitious explorers to a potential abandoned mission. It really shows how history isn't always a straight line.
Right.
But this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because there might be a connection between Van Olmen's story and none other than Christopher Columbus.
Now you're talking. This is where the puzzle pieces might start to come together. The text you provided mentions a story recounted by the historian Bartolomé de las Casas. He writes about Columbus caring for a dying pilot who claimed to have reached the Antilles years before Columbus's famous voyage.
Hold on, are you saying there might be a direct link between these two, that this dying pilot could have been part of Van Olmen's crew?
It's a definite possibility. Imagine the rumors circulating in those days about a lost expedition that had stumbled upon new lands. Could this pilot have been a part of that, or perhaps from another forgotten voyage that predated Columbus?
Okay, my mind is officially blown. So, are you suggesting Columbus might have used this pilot story, this whisper of a prior voyage, to chart his own course?
It's certainly something to consider, and there's more. Remember how Columbus seemed unusually certain about his route, even recognizing landmarks he shouldn't have known about?
Right.
Some historians believe he might have had access to earlier maps or accounts, whispers of previous voyages that never made it into the official records.
So Columbus, the man who discovered America, might have been following in someone else's footsteps. This is rewriting history as we know it. But is there any tangible evidence to support this? I mean, whispers are one thing, but hard proof is another.
Here's where it gets really interesting. During one of his voyages, Columbus and his men unearthed cannonballs on a Caribbean island. Now, cannon technology was relatively new at the time, and finding these cannonballs in the New World strongly suggests a prior European presence.
Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. We have the potential connection to a lost expedition, Columbus's knowledge of his route, and now this physical evidence, these cannonballs, hinting at a pre-Columbian European presence. It's like a breadcrumb trail leading back in time.
And this is where things get really exciting, because if we connect these dots to the bigger picture, it challenges everything we thought we knew about early exploration. It suggests a network of knowledge, of lost voyages, and the possibility that Columbus, while undoubtedly a skilled navigator, might not have been the first European to set foot in the Americas.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah.
We've got these tantalizing clues, whispers of forgotten voyages, and this possibility that European contact with the Americas happened earlier than we thought, but we're still missing those key pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's the thing about historical mysteries. We may never have all the answers.
Right.
This text about Van Olmen, it's full of maybes and perhaps, but it forces us to question the neat official narrative we often get about history.
It makes you wonder how many other stories are hidden in plain sight, tucked away in old documents, or passed down through generations. Like, what are we missing?
Right.
Yeah.
It reminds us that history isn't just about memorizing names and dates. It's about exploration, interpretation, and piecing together the past.
What if, and this is a big what if, Van Olmen did reach the Americas? Even if he was lost on the return journey or his story was forgotten, what would that mean for how we understand early exploration?
Well, it would be a significant shift. It wouldn't erase Columbus from the history books.
Right.
But it would certainly change how we see him.
Right.
I think it suggests that the discovery of the New World wasn't a single, earth-shattering event, but maybe a more gradual process, a series of encounters and voyages, many lost to time, all weaving together to create the tapestry of history.
Instead of one line drawn in the sand, it's more like ripples in a pond, each journey sending out waves that influence everything that comes after.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what other ripples are still out there waiting to be discovered? What other stories haven't we heard yet?
It's one thing to think about lost voyages in the abstract, but those cannonballs, that physical evidence of a pre-Columbian European presence, that's really something. It makes this whole thing feel much more tangible.
Absolutely. And it highlights something crucial about history. It's a living, breathing thing, constantly being reshaped and reinterpreted as we uncover new evidence and new perspectives.
So what are you saying? We should all go digging through maritime records looking for clues of forgotten voyages.
Well, a little archival adventure never hurt anyone.
That's true.
But more importantly, this deep dive, I think, reminds us that history is happening all around us every single day. It's up to all of us to be curious, to ask questions, to dig a little deeper and see what we can find.
Who knows, we might just uncover the next piece of the puzzle. That's a wrap on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you've enjoyed exploring this historical mystery with us. Until next time, keep those minds curious.